In this video, I want to show you 5 things I would have liked to learn in the very beginning of my guitar playing career. Let's start with thing number 1. It's about how hard you push your strings or how hard you push down a certain note when you're playing it. For beginners, this is mostly a thing about chords. You're doing something very unnatural you've probably never done before in terms of building up pressure in a very tiny space. And you use so much power to build up a chord that after a couple of minutes your hand feels like shaking and it might even hurt because you're pushing too hard. And I want to give you an exercise. If we stick to this G chord, for example, it actually doesn't need that much to play or to make this chord sound good. So take one finger, just the middle finger for example, the 3rd fret of the E string, and then don't build up any pressure at all. Then you build up a little bit more, and then there it is. That's not hard hitting. This is pretty soft here. Beginners tend to do something like this. You can see my hand is kind of like cramping. And you can detune. Even when you're pushing too hard, then you might sound not very good. When you're pushing too hard, you detune your strings by... So don't use that much power while playing. You try to, not enough, to build up enough pressure to make it sound. Then you go to the next string, do the same. Open D and G string, and 3rd fret B string, and then 3rd fret E string. I know this becomes harder the more fingers you have to use in a chord. This is just an example, okay? Another tip is grab and this is actually something nobody ever told me before I went to music college. Quite embarrassing. When the teacher first told me, why do you grab the chord there? I was like, I don't know, I always did. Grab with your fingers the chords, or the notes actually, as close to the frets as possible. If you're looking at the G chord, this is the better version. And if it played there, this is not good. This is way harder to create. I have to build up way more pressure than here. Wow, this is relaxing. You get the idea. Just be focused on something like this when you're a beginner. Then there is the capo, thing number 2. Tiny little but very helpful thing to play those good old open chords everywhere. What's a capo for actually? As I said before, open chords, which means chords where we have open strings going on with, sounds often nicer than playing bar chords. And there are tons of songs out there that I've written with a capo. Classic. So a capo is a very cool thing to play certain songs, but don't get me wrong, when I was a beginner, I sometimes faked through songs by using a capo because I was like, I cannot play that very chord. For example, an F-sharp minor chord, which is actually this. So let me use a capo so I can just use my good old 4, 5, or 6 open chords, and I don't have to learn like the F-sharp bar chord. Don't let the capo prevent you from gaining more experience and learn new stuff. Understand that a capo and what's behind that is when you use a capo, you shift up the chords up the neck and that the tonality changes. As I said before, just learn that when you're grabbing that E minor shape, having a capo on the 1st fret, this is not an E minor anymore, this is an F minor. Then capo 2nd fret, as I said before. This is an F sharp minor, E minor shape, but with the capo in the 2nd fret, this becomes an F sharp minor. 3rd fret, G minor, G sharp minor, A minor, A sharp minor, and so on. And if you only learn the notes on the very first 2 strings here, like the E and the A string, you will become a way better player because you get a better overview over the guitar and where the notes are. This is really important, at least even if you're a beginner, learn the notes on the E and the A string so you can finally name a chord still while you're playing with a capo. You know what I mean? That you know that this is a C minor because the capo is in the 3rd fret and you're playing an A minor shape. You might know that when you're playing a normal A minor, the root is the open A string. And when I put the capo in the 3rd fret, we have like A sharp, B, C. So capo 3rd fret with an A minor shape is a C minor chord sounding. Just try to learn that and don't avoid that. This will make you a way better player in general. Thing number 3 is kind of connected to that. It's theory. And I don't talk about jazz theory, complex stuff. Don't run away, please. It's not rocket science. I always made a big turn around theory for the first years of my musical career. I always had like notes in my songbooks written, grab it in the whatever fret or whatever, because I didn't want to learn the actual notes. But just try to understand what you're actually already doing. For example, when you're playing your C major chord, there's a C major scale. That there are actual scales that belong to every chord. And don't be too afraid of that because they repeat themselves over the neck. When you have a shape for a C major, for example, it's the same for C sharp major, D major, D sharp major. It's always the same shape. This is the cool thing about the guitar. You can just shift up scales and they're always the same. A piano player always has to learn a new finger set for a C and then for a C sharp major scale, it's always different finger shape. So try to learn those kind of like first steps of theory, or that you have a triad and understand what a triad is when you're grabbing your C major chord. A triad kind of like implements that it's 3 notes. It's C, E, and G. C, E, and G, that are the notes. And then we have a C, the 1st fret of the B string, and an E. So a C major chord soup consists out of the ingredients C, E, G, C, E. So 3 different notes, C, E, and G. And if we're going to 7 chords, those mostly consist out of 4 different notes. For example, if you lift up your index finger, we have a 7th chord because it's a C major 7. Because we have now our C, E, open G string, and the open E string, but we also added the B string, the open B string, which gives us a 4 ingredient C major 7 soup. Just so you understand what's behind all those chord symbols, when there is a 7 or a major 7, that you understand, okay, this chord consists out of 4 different notes. This is something really important to also gain more overview over the fretboard, and that you understand what's behind triads and 7 chords and so on. Thing number 4, which I wish would have known or would have done as a beginner, is to play with others. Play in a band, play in a duo, get into contact with other crazy guitar players or not so crazy guitar players, but people who love playing music, because you will learn so much from them, especially when they are better than you are. But also if you're playing together with someone who's might be even not as good as you are, this will bring you into the position of being a teacher yourself. You might teach that person something you already know, and this will help you gain knowledge and get things going even better than before. But this is so important. But don't be afraid. I know this can be frightening when I say play in a band. Don't worry. I mean, you're already here. Leave a comment when you have a question for something under a video of mine and ask the community for help. Don't be afraid that you might ask a stupid question, or there are no stupid questions actually. There are Facebook groups. On YouTube you can interact with others. Whatever. Social media is perfect for this. There are forums, you name it. Then you might also get into contact at a music school with another player. Just jam along a little bit. And you might learn a new chord or whatever, and this is so cool, just a great feeling. My first band experience when I was a teenager, I learned at home for a couple of years. My dad showed me the first chords and stuff because he was a hobby guitar player. But at a certain age I was like, oh Dad, go away. I'm a teenager, go away. I finally, after I think 3 years or something, went to music school and they had a band. You had to go to a band. I was like, well, I don't know. And I went into that very first rehearsal and we sounded like really, we did. We sucked. We didn't sound good, but it was the best thing ever. And I still remember the phone call on the way home when I called my dad and said, Dad, this was one of the greatest experiences ever. I just learned so much from this whole situation in terms of playing, sound, communication with others. It was just awesome. And I think this is so important, and I wish I would have started with that earlier. That leads me to point number 5, which is often connected to all those things I just discussed. Find a teacher, find a structure. It can be an offline teacher. I mean, YouTube and stuff is great, and you can learn also a lot of stuff, for example, from me or all the other guys on YouTube. And I have courses where I have like a structured plan for a certain topic, for beginners, for intermediates, for whoever. There's a lot of stuff I can teach you, but the thing is, the structure is so important. Someone who's like your mentor or something, this is so helpful. It might be just for a period of time until you get your own thing going in terms of a structured thing that you open up your mind for, maybe different styles or whatever. This is so important. Get yourself a structure. It might be a YouTube channel. Maybe you're here every time I post a video, and this is great. Because when you just noodle around at home, this can be fine and this can be good. But I think if you don't go out there online or offline and search for the next level, for the next step with a certain structure, you will be lost and you will be stuck at a certain point. And this might be frustrating, and you might put your guitar aside and don't touch it anymore. So I recommend you go out there, offline, wherever. If you don't have a teacher near you, maybe you have another guitar player you can jam around with or whatever. You will learn something from him too. You ask him or her, how do you practice? What do you do? I want to show you how to finally change in between chords, how to play your favorite song fluently. If you, for example, want to go from a G major chord, which is something like this, to an A minor chord. I mean, take a look at your fingers. They all have to go to a different fret on a different string. And they have to do it all at once. It's not like only change one finger or something like this. It's 3 fingers going to a different spot. And this is actually what you should do before you start out. Make sure you know the way and the place of every finger by heart, and not something like, okay, I'm on G now, and where was again my index finger on the A minor chord? This is not something that should happen, because you have to think about positions of the fingers for the next chord. It won't work. You really have to make this kind of dry exercise here and change between chords without actually playing, and make sure, like, where's the middle finger going? Okay, it's going from there to there. And then you do it like this, only for one finger. Don't care for any noises that might occur. Okay, then you do that for the index finger. Goes from the second fret of the A string to the first fret of the B string, and it's quite a gap. And then you take the ring finger, going from the third fret of the E string to the second fret of the G string. And so on. I mean, you get the idea. Then you take like all three fingers together and do it. Do that for, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It depends on the speed, how long it takes for you to do that, but do it like 50 or 100 times. And try to change the fingers all at once. Not like, okay. Try to do it as slow as it needs to be, but be sure to change the positions of the fingers all at once. And if it's like this, I don't care. Also, you should check, where do you land with your fingers? Are you really playing it with the fingertips or something like this? I don't know, fingers lying like more or less on the fretboard. Try to have the fingers as straight coming from the top on the fretboard and on the strings as possible. Do that in the dry exercise process too. And I mean, your song might have like 4 chords or 5 chords, whatever, or 3 chords, more than 2 actually. But stick for 2 chords when you do that exercise first. Then you go for maybe the third chord is a D chord. Then you go from A minor to D and you do the same thing. Okay? First check out which finger has to go where. Okay, index finger from there to there. Ring finger from there to there. And middle finger really has to do a jump on the other side of town. And just focus on one hand. I mean, it's difficult to actually play and do 2 things at a time, like strumming and grabbing a chord, and not being sure of one thing. I mean, this is obvious that this cannot really work out properly. And then, after you did that for, I don't know, in total like 10 minutes or whatever, this would be already a really good exercise. And then you can do stuff like this. Just make easy strumming patterns. Then you go to A minor, then you go to D, then you go to G again, and so on. And after a while you can pimp up your strumming pattern, of course, but make sure if you do that, you're doing it on a tempo that you're capable of. Don't do it like that. Do it like this then. Also, there's another tip I want to give you if you're having trouble switching between chords, changing chords in a progression. When you're playing it with a pattern like this, for example. I mean, this is kind of like a basic chord shape and a basic strumming pattern. It doesn't really matter. On the very last upstroke of the pattern, down, down, up, down, up. You know, the very last one. I already lift my fingers and go to the next chord. Did you notice any of that? Because, no, you probably didn't, but this is a common technique when you're doing strumming patterns like this or when you're playing styles like this. Because it's more about this percussive thing going on than it is to have like the chord on the very last strum. Take a close look when I play it slow. For a very short moment on the last upstroke, I just hit open strings. So it's like down, down, up, down, up. I don't have any chord here, but I'm playing an upstroke. And then on the downstroke, when the pattern starts again and I want to be on A minor, I'm there. Again, last upstroke, open strings. Then I go to D. And again, last upstroke, open strings. I mean, on this slow tempo it sounds kind of weird, but when I speed it up, sounds good, at least to me. I don't know what you think, but this is not something like cheating or something like this. A guitar is also about percussion and making this rhythm going. We're talking about picking techniques and some basic stuff that you need to know when you play the guitar. There are several picking techniques. We have like you probably already know, the downstrokes and the upstrokes. No matter if you're playing a chord, if you strum, or down and upstrokes. But even if you play single notes, you have of course downstrokes and upstrokes. And there's now a very important technique that you should check out, and this is the alternate picking. This sounds so fancy and stuff, but it only says that no matter what, you play downstroke and upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, all the time when you're playing a single note picking. And this is very useful, especially when you want to do something faster. It's way easier than doing just downstrokes. It's kind of hard. That way you can play pretty fast, very nice picking stuff in a relaxed way. So let me show you that stuff. We can take the chord I just showed you because it's a nice chord. It's a chord we don't use that much in those exercises, so we take the F chord. No worries, no bar chord here. Place the ring finger in the 3rd fret of the D string, the middle finger in the 2nd fret of the G string, the index finger in the 1st fret of the B string. Small, but very nice F chord. And we start now by playing the D, G, and B string, and again the G string. And we play down, up, 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 down, up. And take a look how I hold the pick here. I hold it between my thumb and my index finger. And I hope you can see that. It looks like this from the back. And this is the general view you get. So, that's how it looks. I have a certain angle here. The pick is not held like along the string, but there's a small angle there, like this. And I place my palm here on the bridge. I don't touch the strings with my palm, just to make it easy for me to play a fast alternate picking. Down, up, D, G, B, G, D, G, B, G. What might happen there is that your down and upstroke don't sound the same. Take a close listen to it and try to make them sound as even as possible. And make a rest for your grabbing hand there, of course. Because sometimes it happens that upstrokes sound different from the downstrokes. But try to make them sound as even as possible. Close your eyes and just try to play that blindfolded. Listen. Let's bring some nice chords in there too. So we play F twice, the pattern. And now you play the second chord, which is a kind of a C chord, with the middle finger in the second fret of the D string, open G string, and the first finger, the index finger, stays in the first fret of the B string. Also twice, and then back to F. Again the F chord, and now back to the C with E in bass, and back to F. And C. And then we play an E minor chord by just lifting the index finger and just having the middle finger in the second fret of the D string. And then going back to a F chord. And again F from the top. Twice, and then to the C chord. E minor. And the F chord. Alternate picking, very important technique. Try it with this, try it with songs you already play, maybe just with downstrokes. Try to make it as fluent as possible. Try to really watch out for the sound you do when you're doing the upstrokes. Really important thing, that they don't sound so much different from the downstroke sound. So take a close listen, have a lot of fun playing with your guitar, and see you in the next video. Bye!